Imagine for a second that you've always felt like you just do not fit in. Like you struggle to pay attention in class, or maybe you've even been formally diagnosed with ADHD.
Right.
The letters on the chalkboard always seem to, I don't know, float and scramble, so reading is just this massive, exhausting hurdle.
Yeah, and the world just tells you that you have dyslexia.
Exactly. You feel like a total outsider in your own life. But what if I told you that you aren't broken at all?
This is where it gets really interesting.
Right. What if your inability to sit still is actually, well, a set of supernatural hardwired battle reflexes designed to keep you alive in a fight against a mythical monster?
Wow.
And that dyslexia, it's not a learning deficit at all. It's because your brain is literally hardwired to process the three-dimensional syntax of ancient Greek or Latin.
So it's just rejecting two-dimensional English text.
Exactly. It completely changes everything.
It really does. It completely flips the script on what society considers a vulnerability, turning it into like the ultimate indicator of immense power. It is a very comforting thought, sort of ultimate wish fulfillment.
Oh, for sure.
But as we see in the massive stack of lore we are analyzing today, the reality of possessing that kind of divine power comes with a frankly terrifying amount of physical and psychological danger.
It really does. Welcome to this deep dive, by the way. Today, we are exploring an incredibly detailed, sprawling collection of documents and lore that maps out the hidden world of demigods.
The half-mortal, half-divine children of the gods.
Yes, them. And our mission today is to look right past the magical surface of these files. We want to unpack what it actually means, mechanically and psychologically, to exist as a half-blood.
It's a lot heavier than it sounds.
It is. We're going to explore their truly bizarre biology, the vastly different and often brutal rules they are forced to live by depending on which global mythology they belong to.
Right.
And the secret history they've supposedly been shaping right under our noses.
It is a fascinating intersection to explore. Because when you blend human vulnerability with literal divine power, the result isn't just a superhero who can throw lightning or breathe underwater.
Not at all.
You are creating an existence that is fundamentally liminal. They exist in the threshold between two worlds.
Yeah, caught right in the middle.
And as the sources show, that makes their lives deeply tragic and inherently isolated, no matter how incredibly powerful they might seem on paper.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the biological reality of being a half-blood. Because right out of the gate, our sources throw a massive curveball regarding how these kids are even created.
They really do.
If you hear half-god, you automatically think of standard genetics, right? You assume the kid has 50% divine DNA and 50% human DNA. But the text throws that entirely out the window.
Yeah, that would be the logical assumption for a biological organism. But the sources explicitly state that gods do not actually have DNA at all.
Wait, no DNA at all?
None. They aren't biological creatures in the way we understand them. They are literal personifications of nature, concepts, and cosmic forces.
That is wild.
So when a god takes a human form to interact with a mortal, they are essentially manifesting a temporary physical avatar.
Which leads to some incredibly weird family dynamics that the lore addresses head-on.
Oh, absolutely.
Because gods don't have static DNA, demigods with different godly parents aren't biologically related at all.
Right, which solves a lot of awkward questions.
Exactly. Genetically speaking, the files note, it is completely fine for a child of Aphrodite to date a child of Hephaestus.
Yeah, the only hard rule is you cannot date someone with the exact same godly parent because you share that specific divine essence.
Right. But the lack of DNA also explains how some of these kids are born in completely non-biological ways. Like, the files mention that the children of Athena aren't conceived physically at all.
Exactly. They are created through a purely intellectual connection.
Literally born from a thought.
Yeah, Athena's mind essentially merges with the intellect of a mortal partner, and the child springs from that metaphysical merging.
Which is crazy to think about.
It is, but it's a direct reflection of Athena's own mythological birth, where she sprang fully formed from the head of Zeus.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. What this tells us is that demigods aren't just inheriting eye color or height, they are inheriting the metaphysical essence and the conceptual domains of their parent.
But inheriting that essence is exactly what paints a massive target on their backs.
Unfortunately, yes.
The sources talk at length about the burden of the bloodline, specifically this thing called the scent.
Yes, the scent.
Apparently, a monstrous daughter of Hecate named Lamia cast a revenge spell ages ago that gives every single demigod a distinct supernatural scent. It acts as a homing beacon that draws monsters to them.
And the mechanics of how this scent fluctuates are what make it so devastating. It isn't a constant baseline output.
It changes.
Yeah, the scent begins to manifest and peak, usually in their early teens. But the true danger is psychological. The scent becomes exponentially stronger the exact moment a demigod learns their true identity.
That is the cruelest catch-22 imaginable.
It really is.
It's like a cosmic witness protection program where the absolute worst thing you can possibly do is realize you're in it.
Exactly.
If you don't know who you are, the monsters might just overlook you as background noise, but the second you figure out you have power, the act of knowing it solidifies it, and a massive neon sign lights up over your head.
It acts almost like chronom observation. By observing their own divine nature, they make it real, and the monsters can smell that reality.
Wow.
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychological metaphor. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a brilliant, albeit terrifying, representation of the universal human theme of adolescence.
Wait, let me wrap my head around this. You're saying the monster attacks are a metaphor for puberty?
In a way, yes.
Seriously.
Think about it. In your early teens, you are figuring out who you are. Your body is changing. Your awareness of the world is expanding.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
And suddenly, you feel incredibly vulnerable, awkward, and hyper-visible to everyone around you.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
The demigod experience just takes those deeply uncomfortable, normal growing pains of identity formation and scales them up to life or death monster attacks.
That is
The
brilliant.
more you know yourself, the more danger you feel you're in.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about the mechanics of attracting monsters, I have to push back on one rule in these files that just seems completely impossible to maintain.
Okay, which one?
The cell phone rule. According to the lore, using a mortal cell phone is essentially firing a flare gun for monsters.
Yes, the flare gun analogy is used a lot.
And how does that even work? How does a digital cellular signal attract a magical beast?
It sounds absurd, I know.
And more importantly, how do you enforce that today? The sources mention that Percy Jackson, a son of Poseidon, actually tried testing a mortal phone every single year to see if the effect weakened.
And it failed every time.
Right. Are they really expected to go entirely off the grid in the 21st century?
It does seem impossible, but there is a mechanical logic to it within the lore.
Okay, explain the logic to me.
A cell phone digitizes your voice and broadcasts it across a vast network of cellular towers. Because a demigod's voice carries a specific divine resonance.
Like a magical frequency.
Exactly, a frequency of magical energy. Broadcasting it through technology is like pinging an unencrypted sonar signal across the globe.
Oh, wow.
Monsters can tune right into that frequency. And yes, it forces them entirely off the grid. They have to sever ties with the normal world to survive it.
That sounds incredibly isolating.
They cannot use the tools of our modern society, which forces them into isolated, heavily guarded pockets of safety.
Okay, so if you are listening to this and realizing you're a walking, talking flare gun who can't even text their mortal parents without inviting a minotaur over for dinner, how do you actually survive?
It's not easy.
That brings us to the strict systems they build to stay alive, which reveals a major dividing line in the demigod world. Let's look at the Greco-Roman divide.
A very deep divide.
On the East Coast in Long Island, you have Camp Half-Blood for the Greek demigods. They have that innate affinity for ancient Greek. Their quests are delivered as chaotic prophecies by the Oracle of Delphi.
And honestly, the survival rate described in the files is incredibly grim.
Yeah, most Greek demigods die in their teens. Making it past your 20s is considered a rare anomaly.
It is, but contrast that grim reality with Camp Jupiter, the Roman demigod camp located near San Francisco.
Right, the West Coast.
The mechanics of survival there are entirely different. The Roman children speak Latin. They are trained in highly structured, rigid, legion-style warfare.
And crucially, they actually survive to adulthood.
Yes. Once they finish a decade of military service, they can retire to a hidden city called New Rome, start families, go to college, and live relatively normal lives.
That sounds vastly better.
You even have generational legacies there, children and grandchildren of demigods.
If you are listening to this and thinking, signing up for the Roman camp, I'd like to live past 19, hold on a second. Because the entry fee for that Roman survival rate is absolutely brutal.
Beyond brutal.
The files detail that before a Roman demigod even gets to Camp Jupiter, they are sent to the Wolf House. They are judged and physically trained by a literal, immortal giant wolf named Lupa.
And if they show weakness or if they break rank.
Lupa and her pack will eat them, literally eat them.
It is unimaginably brutal, but it explains the psychology of why their survival rate is so much higher.
How so?
The Greek camp is built around the philosophy of the individual hero, the singular, prideful champion going on a chaotic, fate-driven quest.
Right.
The Roman camp strips away the individual ego. It is built entirely around the collective, the legion, structure, discipline, and legacy.
So the wolf test is?
Lupus test is a lethal filtration system to ensure that only those capable of operating without fear within a strict interdependent unit are allowed into the legion. If you can't rely on the person next to you, the whole unit falls.
So you have these two massive, powerful, heavily armed camps of demigods living in the same country. One is an army of individualistic Greek heroes, the other is a disciplined Roman legion.
Yes.
But here is the part that genuinely baffles me. The sources explain that the gods manipulate a magical veil called the mist to keep the Greeks and Romans from ever realizing the other camp exists.
They do.
Why would they do that? Wouldn't an alliance make them infinitely stronger against the monsters trying to kill all of them?
You would think an alliance is the strategic move, but the sources reveal a very dark history that explains the separation.
Okay.
The separation dates back to the American Civil War. In this lore, demigod conflicts mirror mortal conflicts, and during the American Civil War, the Greek and Roman demigods were essentially fighting a massive proxy war against each other.
Wait, which means the gods were sitting back and watching their children slaughter each other on a massive scale?
Precisely. And this raises an incredibly profound point about the psychological toll of the gods on human history.
Yeah, that is bleak.
The gods aren't just protecting their kids from monsters. They are desperately trying to manage the catastrophic destructive potential of their own offspring.
Wow.
Greek individualism clashing with Roman imperialism created an event so devastating that the gods decided it was safer to literally gaslight their own children.
Unbelievable.
They altered reality with the mist to wipe the memory of the other camp from existence, just to prevent those two philosophies from ever going to war again.
That is heavy. The idea that human history's greatest tragedies are just spillover from absentee immortal parents failing to manage their kids.
It really reframes history in the lore.
But everything we just talked about, the camps, the survival rates, the mist, that is all playing strictly by Greco-Roman rules.
Right.
The sources show that if you step outside that specific mythological sphere into other ancient cultures, the mechanics of how demigods survive completely change.
Yes, the demigod experience is entirely dictated by the specific cultural and philosophical worldview of their divine parents' pantheon.
Let's talk about the Norse demigods, because if the Greco-Roman gods rely on these massive hidden infrastructures to keep their kids alive, what happens to demigods whose mythologies don't believe in safe havens?
A rough path.
The Norse kids just get, well, nothing. No Camp Half-Blood, no new Rome. They don't even have the ADHD or dyslexia traits to give them an edge in combat.
Exactly. They're left entirely to their own devices.
Often, they just start seeing Norse monsters, assume they are hallucinating, and end up heavily medicated or living on the streets.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Instead of getting a magic camp and a weapon, Norse kids just get diagnosed with hallucinations. That feels incredibly isolating. How does a Norse demigod survive without any support system?
Often they don't. And that deep isolation perfectly aligns with the Norse worldview, which is fundamentally about enduring a harsh, unforgiving universe leading inevitably to Ragnarok.
The end of the world.
Right. In the Norse mind, there is no safe haven, because safety itself is an illusion.
That is so bleak.
Furthermore, the Norse files show a much broader definition of what constitutes a divine parent. The sources mention children of Jotuns, giants, like Samira Alabas and Alex Fierro.
Oh, right, who are both children of the trickster god Loki.
Exactly. There's even Blitzen, a son of the goddess Freya and a dwarf. The Norse world is fluid, chaotic, and completely rejects the rigid categorization of the Greeks and Romans.
Okay, so if the Norse world is chaotic, the Maya world described in these files is essentially a biological prison sentence.
It's extremely restrictive.
The children of the Maya gods are called godborns, and the mixing of human and divine blood in Maya mythology is treated as incredibly dangerous.
Yes, the mortal vessel physically cannot handle it.
The text notes that almost all godborns suffer from severe physical or medical handicaps. That's like a sort of genetic bottleneck where the divine power physically breaks the mortal vessel.
It is a fascinating biological limitation. To use an analogy, think of divine energy as a massive next-generation terabyte of data, and the mortal body as an outdated floppy disk.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
If you try to download that much raw divine cosmic energy into a frail human nervous system, the hardware literally overheats and breaks.
Makes total sense.
Because of this, the Maya godborns only inherit one specific power. The sources mention a boy named Zainobispo, a son of Huracan, who can only control fire, not storms or weather.
Just the one thing.
Right. The human body simply could not withstand the electrical current of multiple divine abilities.
And the danger of this bottleneck is so profound that the Maya gods actually made a pact called the Prophecy of Fire, swearing to stop having children entirely.
Yes.
If they broke the pact, both the god and the child would be tortured to death. I mean, the Greek gods are terribly neglectful, sure, but the Maya gods were living under the threat of literal cosmic torture just for having a kid.
Which perfectly illustrates the Maya mythological perspective. In their lore, divine intervention in the mortal realm is not seen as an act of heroism or grace.
No.
No, it is viewed as a forbidden, world-ending danger that must be tightly contained at all costs.
Contrast that with the Hindu demigods mentioned in the text, specifically the Pandavas. They completely bypass the biological weirdness and the genetic bottlenecks because they aren't literal biological children at all.
No DNA involved whatsoever.
Right. They are the reincarnated souls of ancient warriors that a god helped create. So a girl named Arusha is claimed by the god Indra, but not because he is her biological father who passed on DNA.
Exactly.
He is her spiritual father because he helped shape her soul in a past life.
The Hindu concept completely bypasses the physical scent issue of the Greeks. It is rooted in spiritual continuation, karmic resonance, and cosmic duty.
Wow.
It is not about a god having a physical tryst with a mortal. It is about the cyclical nature of the universe, ensuring that its defenders are reborn precisely when the world requires balance.
Okay, so we have established that these beings are incredibly powerful, highly varied depending on their cultural worldview, and constantly fighting for their
A
life.
very exhausting existence.
Which brings up the most obvious question. If they are real, and they have been secretly fighting proxy wars that shape mortal conflicts, where are they in our history books?
They are hidden in plain sight, mostly.
Give me some examples.
The files contain a fascinating list of historical figures who are allegedly demigods, using their divine-given talents to shape the mortal world. For instance, Amelia Earhart is listed as a daughter of Zeus, the god of the sky.
Okay, I buy that.
And William Shakespeare is listed as the son of Apollo, the god of poetry, music, and the arts.
I mean, Amelia Earhart being a child of the sky god makes perfect sense, but the text also lists George Washington as a son of Athena.
It does.
Okay, hold on, I have to push back on that one. Claiming the first president of the United States was a son of the wisdom goddess feels a little too convenient, doesn't it?
You think it's just American bias?
Exactly. Is that just American bias in the lore, or does it actually hold up to mythological scrutiny?
It actually holds up remarkably well if you look at Athena's specific domains. She is not just the goddess of wisdom. She is the goddess of strategy, warfare, and statecraft.
Ah.
George Washington's historical legacy isn't built on being the strongest fighter. It is built on his strategic patience, his ability to outmaneuver the British Empire, and his foundational role in architecting a new state.
So he was a tactician.
Exactly. Those are exactly the traits a child of Athena would possess. But beyond the historical figures, the sources also reveal a brilliant pattern in how the modern demigods are named.
Yes. The etymology in these sources is wild. This is nominative determinism on steroids. Let's look at the naming conventions.
The authors of the wiki suggest that it's highly likely the godly parents subtly influence the mortal parents when they are naming their children, embedding their fate into their very name.
So they're doomed from birth.
Basically, look at the modern sons of Hermes, Travis and Connor Stoll.
Wait a minute. Hermes is the patron god of travelers and thieves? Travis is a play on travel. Connor is literally a con man. And their last name, Stoll, sounds exactly like the word stole.
It's not subtle.
That is incredible. Their entire destiny was written on their birth certificate.
It is a perfect example of nominative determinism. The files are full of this. You have Leo Valdez, a son of Hephaestus, the fire god. Leo means lion, which is the astrological zodiac sign associated with fire.
Oh, wow.
Will Solus, a son of Apollo, is the sun god and healer. Solus means comfort, fitting his healing abilities, but it is also a direct auditory play on the word solar.
Ah, Will Solar.
I see. And perhaps the most overt is Nico D'Angelo, the brooding son of Hades.
Let me guess. Nico derives from necro, the Greek root for the dead.
You got it.
And D'Angelo translates to of angels. So the son of the underworld is literally named the angel of death.
Pretty heavy for a kid.
I absolutely love how the lore weaves that together. It implies that their divine nature is inescapable, stamped onto them from their first breath.
It is brilliant wordplay, absolutely. But if we go back to the historical figures we were discussing, there is one specific pairing in these files that elevates this lore from clever trivia to a genuinely profound observation about human resilience.
Ooh, looking at the historical figures, which of those divine parent pairings makes the most brilliant sense to you based on what we know?
Harriet Tubman being listed as a daughter of Hermes.
Oh, wow. Okay, break the mechanics of that down for me. Why Hermes?
Think deeply about the conceptual domains of Hermes. He is the patron god of travelers, of roads, of borders, and specifically of those who must navigate safely in the dark.
Right, he's the guide.
He's the god who guides souls. He is also famously the god of thieves. Harriet Tubman was the most famous conductor of the Underground Railroad.
Oh, I see where this is going.
She navigated harsh terrain, guiding desperate travelers to safety entirely under the cover of night. And from the twisted legal perspective of the horrific institution of slavery in the American South, she was stealing enslaved people away from their captors.
That gives me chills.
It should. Framing her not just as a brave mortal, but as a demigod of Hermes, is a profoundly moving mythological lens on real-world heroism.
It really is.
It suggests she was divinely empowered to guide the lost, slip past borders unseen, and steal freedom back for her people. It grounds the magic of the lore in the very real, visceral struggle for human liberation.
That is incredibly powerful. It takes a concept that starts as a fun fantasy about having magic towers and grounds it in the real weight of human history.
Exactly.
So, looking at everything we have covered today, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Good question.
When you synthesize all these sources, the Greeks with their tragic individual heroics, the Romans with their brutal pack mentality legion, the deeply isolated Norse, the physically burdened Maya godborns, and the spiritually reincarnated Hindu Pandavas.
That's a lot of different ways to suffer, honestly.
What is the core of the demigod experience? It seems to me that it is the ultimate expression of not belonging. You are too fragile, too mortal to sit on a throne in the heavens with the gods, but you possess too much divine energy to ever just live a quiet, safe life on Earth.
You are fundamentally an outsider.
You are trapped in the middle. You don't fully belong to either world, yet you are the only one uniquely equipped and constantly tasked with saving both of them.
It is a heavy, beautiful paradox. They are the ultimate mediators, absorbing the damage of the mortal world while wielding the power of the divine.
Exactly.
But looking at how adaptable this lore is, it leaves us with one final fascinating question to consider.
What's that?
We know that gods do not have static DNA, and we know that their aspects continually adapt to the cultures, technologies, and eras of the mortals they interact with. They shift with human progress.
Right, the gods evolve alongside us.
Exactly.
Oh.
So what would a brand new demigod born into today's hyper-connected, artificially intelligent, fully digital era look like?
Oh, that's a wild thought.
If the fundamental rule of survival is that a demigod cannot use a digital signal like a cell phone without broadcasting their location to monsters, how does a modern hero actually function?
They'd be completely cut off.
Right. How do you organize a quest or save a world that now exists almost entirely online when the very act of logging in could be an immediate death sentence?